Okay, I'll just read them. Suck myself up. Om Jnana Timrandhyasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Vipakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatitam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha Jai Shri Krishna Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpata Rupyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritam Namaskaram Chaivana Uttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Rai Ashtapashya Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Ashwakya Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Devaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss and serve Srimad Bhagavatam once again today. I request blessings from all of you, all the devotees over here, and if I am wrong anywhere, please do correct me. So with all your blessings, I am starting the verses today and praying to my Guru and all the Gurus who has helped me in preparing the lesson today. So today we are doing Canto 1, chapter 16, verses 21 and 22. I bring it up on the screen, so I'll read it quickly from my screen. Okay, so 1.16.21, it says, Araksha manaha striya urvi palan shochasi atha purusha der ivartan pacham devim brahmakule kukarmani abrahamanya raja kule kulakriyan. Translation: Are you feeling compunction for the unhappy women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous persons? Or are you unhappy because the goddess of learning is being handled by Brahmanas addicted to acts against the principles of religion? Or are you sorry to see that the Brahmanas have taken shelter of administrative families that do not respect Brahminical culture? Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the age of Kali, the women and the children, along with the Brahmanas and cows, will be grossly neglected and left unprotected. In this age, illicit connection with women will render many women and children uncared for. Circumstantially, the women will try to become independent of the protection of men, and marriage will be performed as a matter of formal agreement between man and woman. In most cases, the children will not be taken care of properly. The Brahmanas are traditionally intelligent men, and thus they will be able to pick up modern education to the topmost rank. But as far as moral and religious principles are concerned, they shall be the most fallen. Education and bad character will go ill together, but such things will run parallel. The administrative heads as a class will condemn the tenets of the Vedic wisdom and will prefer to conduct a so-called secular state, and the so-called educated Brahmanas will be purchased by such unscrupulous administrators. Even a philosopher and writer of many books on religious principles may also accept an exalted post in a government which denies all the moral codes of the Shastras. The Brahmanas are specifically restricted from accepting such service, but in this age they will not only accept service, but they will do so even if it is of the meanest quality. There are some of the symptoms of the Kali age which are harmful to the general welfare of human society. And I'll read 22 as well, because we are to cover that. Kim Shatra Bantun Kalino Pashatran Rashtrani Vatar Avaropitani Itastato Vashana Pana Vasaha Snana Vyavayo Mukha Jiva Lokam. The so-called administrators are now bewildered by the influence of this age of Kali, and thus they have put all state affairs into disorder. Are you now lamenting this disorder? Now, the general populace does not follow the rules and regulations for eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, etc., and they are inclined to perform such anywhere and everywhere. Are you unhappy because of this? Purport: there are some necessities of life on a par with those of the lower animals, and they are eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. These bodily demands are for both the human beings and the animals. But the human being has to fulfill such desires like animals, but the human being has to fulfill such desires not like animals, but like a human being. A dog can mate with a bitch before the public eyes without hesitation, but if a human being does so, the act will be considered a public nuisance, and the person will be criminally prosecuted. Therefore, for the human being, there are some rules and regulations even for fulfilling the common demands. The human society avoids such rules and regulations when it is bewildered by the influence of the age of Kali. In this age, people are indulging in such necessities of life without following the rules and regulations, and this deterioration of social and moral rules is certainly lamentable because of the harmful effects of such beastly behavior. In this age, the fathers and the guardians are not happy with the behavior of their wards. They should know that so many innocent children are victims of bad association awarded by the influence of this age of Kali. Sorry, Mataji, would you like to carry on? I'm just having to call.
Okay, I can read.
Okay, Prabhuji, carry on.
We know from Srimad Bhagavatam that Ajamila, an innocent son of a Brahmana, was walking down a road and saw a Shudra pair sexually embracing. This attracted the boy, and later on, the boy became a victim of all debaucheries. From a pure Brahmana, he fell down to the position of a wretched urchin, and it was all due to bad association. There was but one victim like Ajamila in those days, but in the age of Kali, the poor innocent students are daily victims of cinemas, which attract men only for sex indulgence. The so-called administrators are all untrained in the affairs of Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas are meant for administration, as the Brahmanas are meant for knowledge and guidance. The word Kshatra, Bandhu, refers to the so-called administrators or persons promoted to the post of administrator without proper training by culture and tradition. Nowadays, they are promoted to such exalted posts by the votes of the people who are themselves fallen in the rules and regulations of life. How can such people select a proper man when they are themselves fallen in the standard of life? Therefore, by the influence of age of Kali, everywhere, politically, socially, or religiously, everything is topsy-turvy, and therefore, for the sane man, it is all regrettable. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I do apologize in advance because it's very hot over here. I think I've been drinking too many cold things right from directly from the fridge. And as you know, I'm not surprised I'm coughing. So apologies for that if I stop midway and now and then. Okay, so thank you. It's two verses, and we'll try to cover as much as possible, but they are very much related. So hopefully we will be able to cover that. So let's start with what one of the great Vaishnava saints once said, or one wrote about. So we've all heard about Narottam Das Thakur, a great Vaishnava saint and a sage and a poet as well. And Narottam Das Thakur wrote in one of his beautiful songs, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Jagainu Manusha Janma Paya Radha Krishna Nabhajiya Janiya Shunya Bisha Kainu. Meaning, he's calling out to Hari, he's calling out to Krishna that, you know, my life is absolutely useless because I've been given the birth of a human being. I've got a human body, but I don't practice, I don't pray to the Lord much. And even after getting the body of a human being, when I don't pray to Krishna much, or I see around and I don't see people praying to Krishna much, not crying out for Krishna, what we are doing is we are Janiya Shunya Bisha Kaini. We knowingly, we are drinking poison by not practicing Krishna consciousness after getting the birth of a human being. So we see how us talking about, you know, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, although we are not practicing Krishna consciousness, you know, I mean, I can only speak for myself, a very, very, you know, fallen person, but we are trying to, and with the blessings of such great devotees, we delve into the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this verse is particularly, I thought to start with this is particularly important because we are talking about Kali Yuga now. And what Narottam Das Thakur has said in this verse about knowingly drinking poison, that is exactly what is happening nowadays in Kali Yuga. The Srimad Bhagavatam might have been written about 5,000 years ago, but what it has predicted and what these two verses are telling us about the predictions are so true. And we will see how that is so true in what is being described. We've been reading about this, about the predictions the last few days as well. And we read a bit further into these predictions and see how much they are true in this Kali Yuga and the age we live in now. Now, why is it that, you know, before we even talk about the predictions, why is it that we have come to such a condition? Now, if we just take just a regular material thing, say someone has a very much liking for sweets, and they have sweets every single day. But then the doctor asks them not to have so many sweets, and the doctor advises them to give up sweets. So the first day the person gives up the sweet, there's a huge withdrawal symptom. They would want to have the sweet again. The second day, it's very, very similar, but maybe the percentage of that withdrawal symptom is slightly lower or less. And as the days go on, the hankering for that sweet reduces day by day, and there will come a time when this person will not miss having the sweet anymore. And the same thing has happened to us. Now, all the things that we see in Kali Yuga, all the degradation that has happened, and so much different and so far from the Vedic injunctions, what has been prescribed by the Lord himself in the Vedas, we are so far from it, is because we have forgotten that sweetness of Krishna. In our original constitution, we are with Krishna all the time. But because we forgot Krishna and we wanted to forget Krishna, we came to this material world out of our own will. In Satya Yuga, people were more attached to Krishna because their detachment from Krishna, it was only the second or third day of giving up the sweet. A bit more detachment happened in Treta, a bit more in Dwapar, and by the time we have reached Kali, we have forgotten Krishna. And that is the reason there is so much of degradation in everything. So our hankering for Krishna, our crying out in separation from Krishna is not loud enough, because we have forgotten Krishna. We have forgotten the sweetness of Krishna. And the predictions given in these verses just tell us in black and white as to just how much we have forgotten Krishna and Krishna's words, Krishna's directions, and Krishna's advice. Okay, so with this, let's just go into a very quick recap. So we hear about in the last few days, in the verses, we have heard how Parikshit Maharaj, when he started ruling, and after a few days, he started seeing some signs of infiltrations of Kali in parts of his kingdom. And obviously, being a very righteous and dharmic king, he set about to take away and all of those bad elements from all parts of the kingdom. He went out on battles and he conquered all parts of the earthly planet. And then wherever he went, to whichever part of the planet he went, he heard lots of glories about his forefathers, because they were such great devotees of Krishna. And he was really relishing that. And he also remembered how he also saw Krishna in his mother's womb when Krishna protected him from being killed by the Brahmastra used by Ashwatthama. So as he was talking, relishing all these lovely hearings about being, how true devotees are about his forefathers, on the other hand, we see there was also Dharma in the personality, in the form of a bull, who was wandering one day and came across Mother Earth in the form of a cow, and a cow her cow with tears, a cow who was grieving as much as a mother would grieve if the mother loses a child. And that is when Dharma asks a series of questions to Mother Earth, to cow, and asking her as to why she is so aggrieved and why she is so sad. And our verses today is part of that series of questions. So earlier, Tama has asked Mother Cow about whether she's unhappy because she has an internal disease, or she's unhappy because, a relative has passed away, or then he asked a very pertinent question. He asked, are you unhappy because I am standing only on one leg and I have lost 3 legs? Now, at this point, I'll pause for 10 seconds and I'll just quickly ask, does anyone remember which leg of Dharma did we lose in Satya Yuga? So we've covered that in the past few days. So in Satya Yuga, the bull, Dharma, who has 4 legs, lost austerity. The people in Satya Yuga, they were very austere, and they prayed the Lord. Their devotion was full of austerity. When we came to Treta Yuga, what did we lose? we lost cleanliness, swachha, cleanliness of mind, of body, of purity, of heart. By the time we came to Dwapar Yuga, we had something and then we lost something by the end of Dwapar Yuga. Does anyone remember?
Compassion, kindness.
Compassion, kindness, mercy. That's right. So we are left on the last leg, and which is truth. So in Kali Yuga, that is our only saving grace. We still have truth. So Tom asked Mother Kali, so Mother Earth, that, you know, so are you anxious that the meat eaters will exploit you? Are you unhappy because no sacrifices are being made to the demigods? Or are you unhappy because you're suffering due to famine and droughts? And then in our verses today, in verses 21 and 22, Dharma asks Mother Earth that, are you unhappy and are you crying because women and children are exploited by unscrupulous men? Are you unhappy because Brahmanas will act against the religious principles, and moreover, the Brahmanas will not be very well versed in the Vedic scriptures. Brahmanas will forget to be Brahmanas and who Brahmanas are. And worst of all, Brahmanas will join hands with unscrupulous leaders and administrators. So are you unhappy of that? So verse 21 deals a lot with Brahmanas, and a bit about women and the behavior of women and men. When we come to verse 22, Dharma asks Mother Earth that, are you also unhappy because of how the administrators, or this time, or if you translate that, he's talking about the Kshatriyas over here in this verse. So are you unhappy about how the Kshatriyas have forgotten everything, and how people are just doing whatever? They've forgotten the four regulative principles as we have today, around meat eating, mating, the same things around mating, eating, drinking. All of these are being performed in a way which is not prescribed, not in a proper way, but in a perverted and inverted way. So are you unhappy that the Kshatriyas are not properly managing it, so much so that they themselves are indulging in the wrong way of performing these acts? And are you also unhappy that the purity of union between a man and a woman has been brought down to just an act of sexual lust? What the Vedas have prescribed us has been completely and totally being transformed into something very, very sense gratification, or rather being directed completely by sense gratification, as opposed to anything to do with dharma. So we go back to verse 21. So these are the 5 main things we will touch upon today in our verses 21 and 22. So we go back to verse 21, and we see that there are 3 main things that we want to talk about in this verse. We want to talk about the Brahmanas and their character, Brahmanas and education, and Brahmanas and administrators. But before that, let's talk a bit about the 5 types of people who was very, very, who get special mention in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in his purport in Bhagavatam 1.8.5, Prabhupada talks about how the Vedas prescribe that 5 types of living entities should be protected. at all times for peaceful maintaining of society. And those 5 types are, the first are the Brahmins, who we'll talk about a bit later. The second are the cows. And why? Because the cows, they give us milk to drink. And from the milk, and we have heard in the previous classes as well, just from the milk, just how much we get the strength, because that milk is pure, and they keep our brain cells healthy, and they make people intelligent. And if we follow the right directions and the right instructions, they make the best of men and women, and they make us more Krishna conscious, because we realize the cow to be our mother. Okay, but nowadays, because we are predicting Kali and what is happening now, the verse is predicting what is going to happen in Kali Yuga, and we can see nowadays that it is true, it is happening. Cows are being killed, cows are being, you have people, if their own relatives or friends or family or anyone, a human body, if they see a dead human body, they would not want to touch that body. They would want to go away from that body. They would want to go and take a shower, clean themselves of that body. And yet you see the same people slaughtering animals or buying dead animals and keeping the dead animals in their fridge or freezer, and having that dead animal over days and days. And at that time, their consciousness doesn't work. At that time, they forget that these are also dead living beings. So if they are able to, if they can realize that a dead living being in the form of a human being is not something that should be, touched, or, should not be, cut or done anything wrong with. They should have the same intelligence and the same consciousness to be able to do that to the other living beings as well. But we see that that is not the case. And the worst is that it has become a fashion now to eat cows, and it has spread in all parts of the world. Even in India, where this whole, where the whole Vedic culture is so prominent. The third living person, living entity who we need to, as the Vedas prescribe, who we should take care of or protect, are the women. And this has been touched upon when we were studying the Bhagavad Gita as well. So just again, an open question. Does anyone can say anything as to why should we protect women? And what particular characteristic of women does the Bhagavatam or the Vedic Shastras go back every time, referring to back every single time? And very recently, we also talked about, when we discussed women, we also talked about Mother Kunti and Mother Gandhari. And we also highlighted this quality that they have, which the Vedas really and Shastras really highlight, and the reason as to why women should be protected. Any thoughts?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Future generations, like the progeny which is coming out, depends on the human, depends on the women basically. And if they're not properly protected and guided, it'll be, the men, unscrupulous men will use them, and then unwanted progeny will come. So that will lead to the degradation of society.
That's it.
So Varna Sankara, I think it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much. That's exactly what I was looking for. So it is the chastity of women, which is so very important and which really needs to be protected. Because, and in this part, in the purport, Prabhupada talks about how marriage has become so very callously treated nowadays. It is not as, it's not so much revered, or not so much of needed nowadays. People are fine to live together. People are fine just to remain as couples without getting married. But the Shastras say that it is really a requirement, because there are quite a few things that can happen. So children coming out of marriages, with a single parent, despite both the parents being present, that can have lots of lots of repercussions and lots of bad, the education when the children are brought up, that may not be proper. Obviously this was an unthinkable thing in the Vedic times, but with, in the Kali Yuga, it has become quite common nowadays. And chastity of women is so hugely highlighted in the Shastras over and over and over again. And as Prabhuji rightly said, when new generations are born, they need to come out of ideal minds, ideal union of the mother and the father, in a dharmic way, for the right reasons, not born out of lust, but born out of love, for the right reasons, for bringing up children and to populate the world with children who are Krishna conscious, who understands the real meaning of life. And as we see, there are so many examples in the Shastras about how the men really protected the women. We see right from, whether it's Krishna, always, Krishna, there's nothing more he thinks about than Radharani, and protecting Radharani, and ensuring that everything is fine for Radharani. Pleasing Radharani is Krishna's main duty. That's what he wants to do the most. Okay, we see how Lord Ram fought, Ravana, and destroyed the entire demons, because he was so enraged that Ravana dared to, kidnap Sita, and dared to do that to a woman. We see how Krishna, he saved the 16,000 women from the clutches of the demon Narakasura. And not only that, to protect the chastity of those women, he married all of them, because nobody else would marry them. And not only that, he gave equal respect to them as he did to his other wives. So he expanded himself 16,108 times, and with each of those wives, he had he built a separate massive palace for them. With each of those wives, he stayed at the same time with all of them. He did not have a calendar or a schedule or a timetable where he visited one queen after another, but he expanded himself so that he could be with all of them all at the same time. When he married all of them, the relatives and his nitya siddhyas, his associates who are with him at all times, who came as relatives, they also expanded that 16,108 times to give equal respect to each of those women, so that all their marriages are proper and properly done, and had the proper, the proper crowd and the blessings of all the elders. We see how Gandhari and Kunti, they were very chaste, and they remained, loyal to their husbands, despite them either leaving this earth, or them being, blinded and not able to see. And we see various other, we see Damayanti later on, but we see, so we see the women and their chastity, and chaste women are highlighted across the Vedas, across the Shastras. And that is why women are held so highly and regarded so highly in the Vedas. People comment about, why many of the purports talk about men and women being, under men, but that is not, that it's just the opposite. It is just the opposite. We'll talk about the Varnashram system in a minute. And, we've talked about this so many times. The Varnas, Krishna is impartial. Krishna is impartial to everybody, whether it's in terms of genders, whether it is in terms of Varnas or, any living entity, human body, animals or trees. Krishna is impartial. So what Krishna does when he assigns genders according to the gunas and the actions, the karmas, the quality and the actions of a soul decides what type of body one gets. But whichever type of body one gets, whichever family of living entity one is born in, whichever family in the human entity one is born in, Krishna sees to it that there is complete, equality and equity amongst all. What he does is when he introduces the Varnashram system, he just assigns different roles. When he has genders, he just assigns different roles. So the role of a man is different to the role of a woman. So it does not necessarily mean that the man cannot do what the women can do, apart from, the medical things around reproduction, etc. But in terms of work, Krishna doesn't prescribe that the man can't do what the women can't do, or the woman can't do that the man can't do. So the woman is equally able to fight battles. We have many Kshatriya women who were trained by their parents, the kings and queens. They were trained to be warriors because they had no sons, or women who were given education and they were very, very qualified. But when they married, they kept it as a secondary because they knew their role, the role assigned to them was to look after the family, and family, not just children and cooking, but it also included family finances. The men would go and, fight, and then, they would probably bring the money, but the management of it was done by the women. So it was all very equal. So the women were really, really important. And on the other side, we see how the Vedas immediately, ensures through the examples of devotees, how Krishna sides living beings who are not, who do not respect the chastity of women. And we see how the whole Kauravas, when they, how they were destroyed. We see how Ravana was destroyed. And we see, so Shishupal, so many people, even Shishupal wanted to marry Draupadi and was very much enraged when he couldn't. So we see throughout the ages how anyone who touched upon or dared to disrespect a woman, they were appropriately punished. There's a poem written in 1585 called Bhaktamala, and it was written by a sage, a great saint called Nabha Das. And in that poem, there are about, there are many stories in that poem. There are about, the poem talks about 200 bhaktas or devotees. And one of the devotees was a woman called, was a woman who had 4 sons. I'm just going to just briefly pause here. Mataji, I haven't even touched upon, I haven't even finished the first verse, and it's only 6 minutes left. What shall I do? Shall I just quickly finish the first verse?
We can finish the first verse and then...
I mean, I can carry on until later, but I'm not sure about the others.
So is there anybody who would not like it probably 10, 15, 20 minutes after 6? I think everybody's okay, Mataji. So
Okay, I'll try to be quick. Sorry about this.
then will you be available tomorrow, Mataji?
I'm available, yes, tomorrow here.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can probably continue tomorrow as well, because after 20 minutes we can continue if there is, because we don't have a mentor tomorrow. I've just got a message from Dev Chandra that he will not be able to join me because there is a Rath Yatra in Birmingham. For
Yes.
Saturday, so tomorrow they have Snan Yatra. So they are going to be preparing for that.
Okay, no worries.
We
That's
can
fine.
continue with these, the next 3 verses and today's verse as well.
Okay, that's fine, Mataji. So, I mean, let me see how much hopefully I'll finish verse 1 today. So the verse 21. So there was this woman mentioned in Bhaktamala, one of the great devotees, and she had 4 sons. And she took a birth every time, before giving birth to her children, she took a vow that I will not allow the sons who I give birth to, I will not allow them to come out of the womb of any other woman. Does that make sense? So she said, the sons I give birth to, I will not allow them to come out of the womb of any other woman. Meaning, when I give birth to them this life, they are going straight back to Godhead. They should not come back another time into this material world to take birth from the womb of another woman. Okay? So she took this great vow, and she brought up her 3 children, the 3 elder children. She brought them up, she gave equal attention to all 4 of them. 3 of her children grew up to be great devotees, and they went back to Godhead. The 4th child went a bit astray, and he didn't particularly want to listen to his mother, and he was always questioning. And then his mother, and to cut a long story short, his mother just gave him an envelope one day before she left her body and said, if you come into distress or fall into distress, just open this envelope. And sure enough, as material life has it, after happiness comes distress. Everything is temporary. The 4th son did come across a very bad time, at which time he opened his mother's envelope and saw the instructions and the advice that everything is temporary, realized what the real purpose of life is, and that is when he turned a leaf and he started practicing, he started his life in devotion, and eventually he went back to Godhead. But through this statement, I think through the statement that the vow of a chaste woman, it once again established just how important it was to protect women. And so when in the purport we hear about how women are being taken advantage of by unscrupulous men who use their body, and then that gives rise to birth of children who are sometimes wanted, sometimes unwanted. Just how much of a degradation from the actual instructions of the Vedas it is, and how much Kali has degraded, or the age of Kali has degraded, to be able to treat a woman so badly. Yeah, so that's only the first part of verse 21. The second part is about the Brahmanas. And when talking about Brahmanas, as I mentioned, there are 3 main things that the verse talks about. Brahmanas and their character, Brahmanas and education, and Brahmanas and administrators. Does anyone have the Bhagavad Gita with them in front? So if you can please read, I think I have chapter 18, verse 42, I think. Yes, 1842.
Yeah, I can read, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. So those are the quality. Yes, those are the qualities of a Brahman. You can just read the translation, Prabhuji.
Okay. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These
Thank
are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So Krishna himself has given the exact definition of Brahmanas. So these are the qualities of Brahmanas. So they need to be peaceful, self-controlled, they need to be austere, pure, tolerant, honest, they have to be knowledgeable, okay, and they have to be wise. And these are what Krishna says directly is that, and a key word is that these are the natural qualities of the Brahmanas. These are not, acquired qualities. These are natural qualities of the Brahmanas. So who is a Brahmana? It's a Brahmana. So we've heard many a times in the Shastras that the Brahmana, you don't become a Brahmana by birth. It is not by birth that it's a Brahmana. People who say and who are very proud that they are born in a Brahmin family, and so they have their Upanayana and they have their Brahmin thread, and they automatically go about saying that we are Brahmanas, and we see so many wrong things being done nowadays based on caste systems, so many abuses happening in the human society. In some parts of India, we read in the news, we see honor killing still happening if a Brahmin guy, a boy or a girl, tries to marry someone of a different, of a lower caste. But this is all wrong, because you cannot be Brahmana by birth. And this is really the acid test, because to call oneself a Brahmin just by birth is automatically refuting the very fact that you are a Brahmin. Now we see people like Parikshit Maharaj. He had a group, he was so knowledgeable, he himself had seen Krishna. Now, can we, can we really believe that he did not have the knowledge to rule the kingdom, that he was not dharmic enough and not righteous enough to rule the kingdom properly? Of course, he had all the qualities, but he still had a group of very wise Brahmanas around him who would advise him and give him the right knowledge, the right advice to rule the kingdom. So we see through examples of really great kings who are devotee kings, we see how Krishna establishes the importance of the advice given by Brahmanas. Whether it's through Parikshit Maharaj, we see King Dasharat. Does anyone remember who was the name of King Dasharat's advisor? Kul Guru, as they said. It was the sage Vashishta. Again, he was a Brahmarshi, a great sage. So again, King Dashrath, he ruled for so many years, a very wise king, but he had his gurus. Even Lord Ram has the gurus. Even Krishna and Balaram, after leaving Vrindavan, they went, they are the lords. They know everything, and yet they went in the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni, and they studied over there. They studied from a guru because they wanted to establish the fact that the Brahmanas are the top. Now, Prabhupada, in the 18th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, in one of the purports, in the purport, he gives the examples of a body, of a human body, and the various parts of the body. Okay, you have the head, the hands, the torso, the limbs, and he says, just as and he talks about the varnas, or the various different categories of people, or in the human society. So some can be hands, some can be legs, some can be the body, but the heads are the Brahmanas. Because a person can lose a leg or a hand, or cut a finger, but a person can survive. But if the head is cut, the person cannot survive. And by head, what we mean is the knowledge, the instructions, the advice. So Brahmanas naturally, Krishna said, Brahmanas naturally were Krishna conscious. Brahmanas naturally knew who Krishna was, what the purpose of life was, and what needed to be shared with the rest of the population so that the society remained in peace and harmony. Now, remember, when we all left the spiritual world and we came down to this material world, we were all rebels. We wanted to leave Krishna kingdom and we wanted to lord over, our own selves, and we wanted to have free will. So we were all basically rebels who left the spiritual world, and we all came to the material world. But in the spiritual world, there is only one goal. There is no disparity. All the souls, they have only one goal and one target, that is to serve the Lord, to love the Lord. And Krishna has only one thing to do over there. Krishna wants to serve his devotees, to love back his devotees. But when we come to the material world, because the individual souls who came down as rebels, they all wanted to have that they had the ego to be lords of themselves. And when you want to be a lord, you cannot have everybody as same, as equal. There has to be someone who's higher, someone who's lower, and someone in the middle. And because Krishna, whatever we are, we all come from Krishna, because Krishna is Bhakt Vatsal. He loves his devotees, but he also loves the ones who are non-devotees. We all come from him. Krishna wanted peace and harmony even in the material world, even for those who had rebelled against him. And that is why he created someone who is able to give them the knowledge, the rest of the population knowledge of how to remain in a peaceful and harmonious way. And that is where he chose the Brahmins. And that is the task he gave to the Brahmins. So the Brahmins, when in Bhagavad Gita in Canto 1, chapter 8, verse 5, when it is mentioned as to why the Brahmanas are so important and why the Brahmanas are to be protected, and why in various other Upanishads and Shastric books, it goes back over and over talking about why the Brahmanas are so important. It is not because the Brahmanas are born as Brahmanas, but because they have the knowledge to advise the rest of the population how to love the Lord and how to live the right way, how to live according to what is good for them, and that will take them back to Godhead. So, but what we see nowadays is that Brahmanas have really, they have started calling themselves Brahmanas just by birth. They do not have proper knowledge of the Vedas, and they try to, perform religious activities without having proper knowledge. And then, we see about how, from the same family, from Kashyap Muni, we see his wife Diti and his wife Aditi. Aditi, who gave birth to the demigods, and Diti, who gave birth to the demons. So you would have thought that Kashyap Muni, being a Brahmin of greatest order, of highest quality, automatically by birth, his sons would be Brahmins as well. But we see by the examples of demons, what we are being told in the Bhagavad Gita is that in Kali Yuga, the Brahmins, or the people who misuse Vedic injunctions, or misinterpret, or do not stick to them, are no better than demons. Okay, they may have a human body, they may have a very nice, nicely formed human body, but in actuality, it is what is inside them that matters. So Diti, why did she, although she mated with Kashyap Muni, why did she give birth to demons? That is because, because she was jealous of her other sisters who had married, other 12 sisters who were also married to Kashyap Muni, and they were all giving birth to children, and she didn't have, she didn't have any children. And she was very, very jealous, and she just went to Kashyap Muni one evening. It was dusk time, and she wanted Kashyap Muni to immediately beget her with sons. And Kashyap Muni said, look, it's dusk time. This is the time when Lord Shiva goes around, and he's, you have to be very calm during this time. This is the time when you need to pray to the Lord. But Diti was very, her jealousy and her lust took over, and she forced Kashyap Muni to have union with her. And because of that, because of the wrong intention, wrong time, wrong intention, what she gave birth to was demons. We have Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, then the whole demon generation. So what Prabhupada is trying to say in this purport is that, or rather what Vyasdeva is saying in the verse is that, when we have Brahmins who misuse and give wrong information to people or do not have proper knowledge, they are nothing but demons in human body. Okay, and we see, people who are, lots of in universities nowadays, we have professors who come out and have a cigarette with their students. That's supposed to be fashionable. It was unthinkable in previous time. You wouldn't have a guru, a Brahmin, doing behaving in such a way with his disciples. Now, the second, I'm going to, just cut this short here and then move on to how are we doing with time. Shall I stop over here, or shall I do Brahman and education? Or shall I stop over here?
Mataji, we can continue tomorrow probably.
Okay, yeah.
We have the time tomorrow. So.
Yes, so let's continue tomorrow. Yes, sorry, I think I talked.
No, because concentration is only 45 minutes.
Yes. Yeah,
this is a learning process. We don't want to race against the time.
Yes, no, Mataji, thank you. So I'll stop here today. If I've made any mistakes, please correct me. And if there are any comments, please do let me know. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for this excellent class. Mataji, you have not made any mistake at all. You have given us so much important points today. Mataji, just one question. What was that lady called who was in the Nabhata, was in Bhaktamala?
So the name of the lady is not given. So she's just given as one of the devotees, one of the 200 devotees mentioned in the poem.
Okay.
So
I hadn't come across that. So that is excellent example of chaste women. And we should keep the names of the women devotees in our head, because we need that information to fight, to argue our points when people are refuting that, oh, women are not respected in the Hindu culture. So that's why if we can have a list of women as well, if you have, that is.
Yeah, we'll read about Damayanti later on. I mean, that is one, but there are so many others. Yeah, there are so many others, but yeah.
Any other questions or comments for today's excellent class? I think there are no questions or comments. I really apologize for starting late and in your time. So can I request Arya Govind Prabhu to kindly please end this session for today?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna for this wonderful class. As Mataji said, no comments and no questions. It was a wonderful class. We hope to see you again tomorrow, and then we continue the class. I request all devotees to unmute and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of Her Grace Panchali Mataji. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
one chikar ki
Jai.
Grace Panchali Mataji ki.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Panchali Mataji, will you have time to go through the next 3 verses tomorrow?
Next 3 verses, Mataji.
Yeah, they are very small verses.
Oh, okay. I'll try my best. Yes.
We'll just read and discuss them like we
Okay. Okay, Mataji. No
I
worries.
don't want you to go into preparation because I'm sorry you won't
Oh,
probably.
no worries at all, Mataji. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I have to apologize to you, Mataji, because I was just, I'll say it after the recording, because this